Look at that. I was just saying we're getting ready, but we're waiting on someone. I can't remember who that was. But anyhow, now I don't have to say it. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee. It's October the 2nd, and it's a couple of minutes after 1. My name is Tony Mancini, the chair of the committee. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all a treaty people. First up is the approval of the minutes from September the 4th, moved by Councillor Daigle Galvin, second by Councillor Steele. All those in favor of the minutes? We now have official minutes. Thank you. Approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Madam Chair, are there any additions or deletions?
Yes, we do have an addition to today's agenda. That is Councillor Austin's motion on the Solar City enhancement.
Okay, thank you. We'll be bringing that up if everybody's in agreement at item number 16. That'll be fantastic. Anything else from the committee? Seeing none, if we have someone move the order of business, moved by Councillor Daigle Galvin, second by Councillor Steele. All those in favor? We now have an official agenda. Thank you very much. Any business arising out of the minutes? Seeing none, is there any call for declaration of conflict of interest? Seeing none. When it comes to motions of reconsideration, motions of rescission, consideration of deferred business, and notice of table matters, that all falls into the none category. We now come to 10.1 correspondence, and 10.2 petitions. Madam Clerk, are there any correspondence or petitions? Oh, I don't think your mic was working there.
Oh, no correspondence or petitions have been received at the clerk's office.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Anything from the committee? Seeing nothing from the committee. Now we come to the public participation. And so looking into the thousands that are here in chambers today and the millions watching at home, I will ask if anybody wants to come forward. I'll call 3 times. Would anyone like to come forward and speak to the committee? And third and final time, would anyone like to come forward and speak to the committee? Seeing none. There's no information items brought forward. Now we come to the main reason for today's meeting, of course, at reports 13.1.1, the Halifax 2024-25 Annual Progress Report. And I believe the world famous Kevin Boutlier is going to give us that presentation. Is that correct? Kevin, good to see you. As you get settled here and you get your slide deck, and for the benefit of the committee, maybe you could introduce that fine team that's in behind you supporting the work that's being done by your department.
That would be fantastic. Just there's nothing on the screen here for the presentation. My apologies. Well, before we do get started, I just want to introduce the fine folks that we're here with today. So we've got Emma Waddy, Jonah Bernstein, Natasha Winters, and Colleen Goss. So all members of our environment and climate change team. Key supporters and contributors to all the incredible work that was done throughout the last fiscal year. All right, I gotta move the way.
Sorry.
No worries.
The clerk is pushing cords and stuff. Is that, if it's something you broke, Kevin, you'll have to pay for that, right?
Fantastic.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, the floor is yours, sir. We look forward to the presentation.
All right, perfect. So good afternoon, members of the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee. My name is Kevin Boutler. I am the manager of the Clean Energy team, and I'm thrilled to be here today to present our 2024-25 annual Halifax Progress Report. As mentioned, I'm joined here with members of the Environment and Climate Change team. However, this report and the progress throughout the last fiscal year could not be possible without the great efforts from all business units and our many external stakeholders. Climate change is caused by humans, and its effect is already having an impact on our residents, communities, and businesses. These impacts are being felt through increasing and more volatile fuel costs, hotter days, increased drought, more storms, more flooding, increased stress to our ecosystems, stress to our lakes, and the spread of invasive species and pests. In 2020, the Halifax Regional Council approved Halifax, committing HRM to be part of the global solution on acting on climate change. In approving Halifax Regional Council recognized that climate action will result in tangible local benefits to our residents, like building community resilience, making homes and businesses more affordable, and reducing the impacts on our most vulnerable populations. Halifax is a holistic plan with actions that support all of Council's key priorities. This includes enabling prosperity, strengthening communities, and offering more efficient and equitable modes of transportation. Furthermore, by implementing Halifax, we simultaneously move forward on other strategic plans like the Green Network Plan, the Urban Forest Management Plan, and the Integrated Mobility Plan. Thanks to collaborative efforts across the municipality, we are making great progress as half of the actions are on track. However, we are not moving at the pace required to meet our collective science-based climate targets. Some key barriers to implementation include regulatory limitations and competing and emerging priorities. Regardless, the ECC team is committed to accelerating this work this year by fostering deeper collaboration with business units and assisting them in more effectively integrating climate action within their business planning. Additionally, ECC is working to embed climate action within Council's new strategic priorities. Progress on each action for the fiscal year 24-25 can be found in Appendix A of the Council package. However, here are a few highlights where collaboration across the municipality has yielded tangible results for both the municipality and the community. Reliable public charging is crucial to reducing range anxiety and empowering residents to transition to lower carbon transportation. With federal funding, our team has worked with Halifax Libraries, Parks and Rec, and community groups to deploy close to 30 public chargers across the municipality within the last year. This work has filled the current gap in charging infrastructure, and by supporting the increase in EV adoption, we are encouraging more private sector deployment. The Scotiabank Centre is just one example of many where our friends in the facility design and construction team have taken a proactive approach to building renovation and state of good repair. As buildings are up for renewal and equipment is at the end of life, FDC is looking for opportunities to add on efficiency upgrades. With funding support from all levels of government, the FDC team performed several efficiency upgrades at the Scotiabank Centre, including a heat recovery system that captures waste heat from the ice plant for space heating, and the installation of a thermal energy storage system that actually shifts the peak load to off-peak when electricity is much cheaper. This project will see energy reduction, and it's expected to yield annual operating savings of about $200,000 per year and result in a payback of just 5 years. The CEO Climate Action Charter was co-created with HRM businesses and the Halifax Regional Municipality. This charter includes signatures from over 20 major HRM businesses that have all committed to embedding climate action within their operations. The charter aligns with the Halifax Partnership's People, Planet, Prosperity economic strategy, recognizing that climate action drives economic growth through boosting productivity, creating local jobs, and attracting and retaining world-class businesses. This type of external collaboration strengthens ties between the municipality and the private sector, helping make Halifax a climate competitive, business-friendly city. Through our naturalization program, we are minimizing erosion and improving the water quality of our many beautiful lakes. This is done by reintroducing or increasing native vegetation, which helps reduce runoff. This year, Emma's team supported Parks and Rec and local residents to renaturalize lakes at Birch Cove Park and Penhorn Park. Climate change will impact our critical infrastructure, and understanding these impacts is crucial to protecting people, property, and services. As part of the Resilient Critical Infrastructure Working Group, we're working on a climate change, vulnerability, and risk assessment. This assessment identifies which of our critical infrastructure, buildings and roads, is most at risk of damage, helping us prioritize resiliency upgrades alongside other planned capital work. This prioritization is timely because our friends in Public Works have been revising their municipal design standards to reflect climate-informed practices. These revisions will improve public safety and ensure that capital projects are future-proofed and climate resilient. As we saw in 2023, flooding can come as a devastating surprise for our residents and businesses. In partnership with the Infrastructure Standards Team in Planning and Development, the municipality launched a first-of-its-kind mapping tool which shows areas at risk for different types of flooding. This map will allow residents, businesses, developers, and the municipality better assess flood risk and plan accordingly. It was a big year for Halifax Transit as they started to roll out their electric bus fleet. With support from all levels of government, 60 electric buses were purchased, and the Ragged Lake Transit Depot expansion was completed by Facility Design and Construction. This expansion included the installation of adequate charging infrastructure and a large rooftop array, one of the largest in Atlantic Canada. The solar array will ensure that the increased electricity to charge the buses is as low carbon as possible. These new electric buses will result in much lower emissions even with the current electrical grid, and lead to a more pleasant and quieter commute around HRM. Performing energy upgrades can be costly and confusing. That's why our team is working to support residents through municipal programs that offer low-interest financing and expert guidance. One such program that's currently being developed is our retrofit program, which will target older homes that currently heat with oil. These homes are the focus because they're typically ones that have high energy consumption and are therefore most costly to heat. This program is being built off a pilot program that we just finished, which saw residents perform energy upgrades that will result in about $3,000 in annual savings. The retrofit program is modeled off of our long-standing and award-winning Solar City program, which has been running for over 10 years. The Solar City program offers low-interest financing and guidance to residents who want to install solar, and so far the program has helped residents reduce their utility bills by close to $2 million per year. The Solar City program has provided long-term, stable support to property owners and the solar industry. This type of stability is key for industry growth as provincial and federal programs come and go. This is just a snapshot of the progress throughout the last fiscal year, so 24-25. However, in partnership with corporate communications and IT, we've created a webpage that will showcase all Halifax projects in more detail and provide progress updates to both council and the community. We hope to launch this website in the next few weeks and look forward to your feedback to ensure it's a useful tool when communicating with residents. In Halifax, we have community emission targets of a reduction of 75% by 2030 over 2016 levels and net zero emissions by 2050. While there's been a significant increase in population over the last 5 years, our community emissions have decreased by about 6%. This is largely due to the continued decarbonization of the provincial grid and a reduction in home oil heating use. With respect to our corporate emissions, we are targeting net zero municipal operations by 2030. Since our baseline year, our emissions have decreased about 13% despite an increase in services. However, over the last year, our emissions did increase by 3%. This increase can be largely attributed to the new organics facility, which is now operating while the old one is not yet decommissioned. However, since this emissions inventory is for year-end 2024, we do expect a reduction in the next few years. We're scaling up our corporate building retrofits. Our electric buses will be in operation, and we've recently signed a renewable energy power purchase agreement. The agreement would see close to 50% of our corporate electricity needs be generated through wind energy by the fall of 2026. Meeting our 2030 targets will be challenging, but every ton of emissions we cut between now and then reduces the financial and social costs our municipality and residents will face in the future. By continuing to invest in and promote climate mitigation measures like renewable energy, we can protect residents against volatile fuel costs and the future rate increases. By continuing to invest and promote in deep energy retrofits, we can help make homes more affordable and comfortable. By continuing to invest proactively to build resiliency in our infrastructure and build back better when damaged by climate impacts like we've seen in recent years, we future-proof to avoid costly emergency repairs. The infrastructure we don't need to replace is always the cheapest. We are making progress, and the projects discussed highlight how this work is having a positive impact for residents and businesses. However, the pace must increase to get closer to our collective climate goals. This can happen with deeper collaboration across municipal business units and strong ongoing support from council as you set strategic priorities and guide business planning. Working together, we can move faster and more efficiently to limit the environmental, social, and economic impacts of climate change. This will ensure that HRM remains the best place to live, work, and play. And myself and the team look forward to your questions. Thank you so very much for listening.
Kevin, thanks very much for that presentation. I see that there are some questions from the committee. Councillor Dale Gammon, would you mind putting the motion on the floor? And then we would love to hear your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So yes, I would move that the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee forward the Halifax 2024-25 Annual Progress Report to Halifax Regional Council for information, but I would also like to say for presentation.
Well, excellent. Excellent. So we've added that as well, let's put the motion on, then we can add that as a friendly. Who's seconding that? Councillor Steele? Oh, Councillor White did. Okay. And so your first thing is you want to add that
amendments to the motion to say for presentation.
Yeah, and I believe that will be friendly. No issues. The seconder is okay with that. Yeah. So that's done. Great suggestion. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Kevin. So this is the trial run, and then come back to Regional Council. One of the things, Halifax gets a lot of attention from the public. They're wondering, we've got a specific, amount of funding per year, and people really want to know what it is and how we're spending it. I'm wondering if we're tracking on the website just how many independent views we're getting, like what is the percentage of the population that's paying attention, I guess is what I would like to know. So I think that's really important. I know Councillor Austin has an edit item around Solar City there, so that's kind of interesting. The electric vehicles is a place where I have a question, and it's just that I was hoping I was going to sit here today and tell you, Kevin, that I bought an electric vehicle, but I didn't. So I have to wait 2 years in order to get the vehicle that I want, I guess, but mostly because, I've got a very rural district and I travel a lot, so I'm in my car a lot. So we're still looking at where are those chargers outside of the peninsula. So I'm just wondering if there's any kind of a plan in the next year that's going to look at installation of the chargers in a more rural sense. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Certainly. So through you, Deputy Mayor, to the councillor. So on the first question, the website is not live yet, but we will be tracking. We will be tracking.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. Will you be tracking?
Yes, we most certainly will be
Kevin,
when it is live. And we will be highlighting such things like where money would be going in the particular projects to share with residents, so they can have a transparent view of what we're doing, right? Rather than just this report that sometimes people might not read. I would read it, but with respect to the EV deployment, so that's correct. In your district, we have not deployed any to date. So outside of the peninsula, we've deployed charging down in Hubbard, St. Margaret's Bay, Musquodoboit Harbor. We've been working with the folks at the Bicentennial Theater for a charger there. Due to site constraints, it is not looking promising. So
Okay.
we're working with real estate
sense.
to find another location, and we're currently looking adjacent to the high school that's up the street from there. But I'd like to possibly work with you offline about maybe a location in Upper Musquodoboit
Excellent.
as well, because that's certainly, we want to fill the gap in the network, and those are gaps in the network. So
Awesome.
yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. I look forward to that.
Thank you, Council, for asking that question about chargers. When it gets my turn, I'll be asking similar questions, as Kevin knows, so that's all right. Next up is for Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Kevin and team there for all the work that's gone on. Looking at the list, it's some impressive progress that's been made, and I think for my colleagues who were with me on the last council, I just want to acknowledge that wasn't necessarily easy. We had some heated budget debates about staffing for this team, and whew, glad that we won that one, because I don't think we'd be here today if it hadn't been for those efforts at the front end. I think the report very much illustrates there's that foundational work that happens, and then it's the implementation. So happy about that. When the renewed website like that you're talking about there goes live, will there be a PSA type thing so that we can all plug it?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to the Councillor, if it's not planned, it will be planned, yes. We
Perfect.
certainly will do that, yeah.
And maybe it's just my own memory failing me, because I know we talked about it two meetings ago, the renewed retrofit program, because I really like the retrofit, because we talk about affordability. This is one of the few places we can put money back into our residents' pockets and at the same time do better on the environment piece. When is that coming forward? Not the Solar City piece, but the retrofit.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, to the Councillor. So we have an RFP that closes on the 9th to hire a navigator, is what we're calling it, which will support residents in proceeding through the retrofit. We'll get them up to speed, and the goal is to launch early January, February. We'll be targeting, so we have we have data for all homes within HRM, and we're going to be focusing on, like I said, those homes that currently heat with oil and are older than the year 2000. So we're currently, with the funding that we have through a previously approved council motion, we have about $3 million of financing for that program, which would be about 100 homes. We're looking at about $30,000 for heat pump and insulation upgrades. And by focusing on those homes that currently heat with oil, we can achieve 50% or more with just those two measures, and then we point those folks to the Solar City program. So we're hoping, late winter, we'll get this moving.
Excellent.
Yeah.
My place is 1873, so I'm very much in your category for one element, but I already ditched my oil, so already well ahead on that one. I wanted to ask about the carbon budget kind of piece, because we'd seen earlier on, and I asked this with some trepidation, because I think it's a challenging kind of topic for a couple of reasons. We'd seen in the past that okay, here's your total carbon budget, and this is where we are, how it's filled up, and how quickly we're going to get to the end of it. And in the Halifax report, there was that 2-page, I'm just looking at it now, big spreadsheet on page 27 with the graph across the whole thing, broken out into the elements and showing how, yes, we have till 2030, yes, we have till 2050 to get to neutral, but you got to make your big changes on the front end. I didn't see anything like that speaks to either of those kind of elements. And I don't think you get the same thing from just the bars in the report. I'm wondering where that might be, like that sort of like accountability piece back to that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Councillor. That is a good question. That is something that we've shared in the past, highlighting that I believe by 27, 28 or so, the carbon budget would be depleted per se. We don't we don't have data for that right now to provide. the focus of that was the 1.5 degrees to meet, stay within that 1.5 degree pathway. What I would say is that achieving the target will be difficult. I would say that we are on the trajectory that we need to be on, based on the planning that we've done and the build up to get to this point.
Yeah, and so this was my trepidation, because you struggle, and I mean, I think it's a bigger sort of struggle in the environmental movement. We're not going to hit this absolutely, so therefore we should just give up and do nothing, versus the no, there's to get 98% on your test is still a very good result, or 90%. Like, we still need to push as hard as we can to get to that. So I understand sometimes the, like, if you put something like that out there, does it just take away all the kind of impetus for hope? Well, we can't do it, right? So I struggle with it myself, but I think it's worth coming back to. I have two other things I want to get to, but I'll buzz back.
Get you come back if you don't mind, please. Thank you very much. Councillor Steele.
Okay. Thank you, Chair and Deputy Mayor. I have a couple of questions. Maybe I'll start with my first one. I don't see water conservation in here at all. And I'm curious, given, the current climate we're operating in, if there's a possibility or a way, and maybe it's integrated and I'm not seeing it, water conservation. And I think of the situation we're currently facing, where Halifax Council has approved funding for some communities where, their wells are dry. The province, of course, has also stepped up in that area. But I'm wondering, when you think about our evolving climate here in Nova Scotia, if perhaps there isn't something we could be building in here. And this may be under the mandate of Halifax Water as well, but you mentioned about working with other business units. So I'm really curious about that. And I also have another question, but I may save it for next time around, related to net zero by 2030 and the regulatory barriers. I'd like you to expand a bit on that. I know there's some in the report, but I think just for the public that are watching. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So thanks for the question. So with respect to water conservation, so I'd say there's two things on that. Within Halifax, there are two actions that are the responsibility of Halifax Water. One is a climate-informed water supply strategy. Secondary to that, part of the short to medium term plan for our retrofit program is to also include resiliency measures within that, so to support residents in performing resiliency upgrades, which would include rain gardens, rain barrels, and education around that. Right now, the focus is getting the retrofit program up, but we're trying to create the program so that these additional pieces can be added into that. With respect to the net zero piece, if you could repeat your question, my apologies.
Sure, but let me drill down a little bit on the retrofit program. The retrofit program, is it? I'm always curious about any duplication that might exist with Efficiency Nova Scotia, and I know you did make the point. The feds are in, the province is in, they're out, and you alluded to the continuity of Halifax and the fact that we're in it for the long haul. But I'm always curious about the potential duplication or overlap, and what are the opportunities? Are we filling gaps, or are we complementing existing programs? If you can speak a bit to that, so I'd have more confidence that this is, indeed important and necessary.
Yeah, certainly. So we do not want to duplicate or replicate what Efficiency Nova Scotia is doing. They've got their mandate. It would not be a good use of funds or resources to duplicate what they're doing. What we do want to do is complement it. So what we want to do is, Efficiency Nova Scotia offers rebates. We would be offering financing and guidance on how to access rebates and financing and how to combine them together. So because it's one thing to get, for a $30,000 upgrade, let's say, and you're going to get a $5,000 rebate, that's great. But if you don't have $25,000, to put up, the rebate's not super helpful to you, right? So that's why our financing would work really well with Efficiency Nova Scotia's offering, so that we can cover the upfront cost and then people can pay it back after they see their savings. And then with respect to the water conservation, perhaps the solicitor can support me in this, but I do believe we have a program that uses municipal financing to support and drilled wells. We do. So perhaps maybe some more communications around that for folks, especially given the recent summer, would be an option.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Kevin, on that point, though, that's something you guys can initiate and get some communication from corporate comms on that so we can spread the word? Thank you. Next is Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Kevin, for the presentation. I think it's just amazing to me reading the report about all this starting in 2020 and how much you've done since then. It's really impressive. I think there's not many, I don't know, maybe I'm still learning, not many groups in HRM that have like completely scaled up this fast to do this much in 5 years. So it's awesome. Lots of questions. Regarding the retrofits, is there a reason you've kind of removed the word deep energy there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, yes, 100%. When people think deep energy retrofits, they think it's inaccessible. They think it's a lot of work. They think it's a lot of money. So we're trying to work with the wording to have that behavioral change of, hey, this is accessible. And I think by us focusing on just heat pumps and insulation, of course, we would love to go 100%, net zero. But heat pumps are generally well understood in Nova Scotia, at least, and insulation as well. So that's the focus of removing the deep.
Okay. Is there like a range people can go with it? Because I know it's hard to get that really big insulation done. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So there would be a range. Again, we would be guiding people towards insulation, typically attic, basement, and heat pump. But if the home, after doing a home energy assessment with Efficiency Nova Scotia, there's some additional stuff that's required, we'll leave that up to the property owner. They want to do windows and doors as well, and it achieves an energy reduction, we'd be able to finance that.
Okay, that's great. I'm really excited for that one. Okay, when I was reading the report, there's a table there, and it looks like we're not spending all our money. Did I read that right, and why?
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So that is correct. The spend is much lower than what we do have in that account. However, the majority of it is committed. So it is committed to projects, which I think is key. There's been, delays in building up, delays with design. There's some planning work that's required. But we've got a number of projects, especially with deep energy retrofits and fleet charging infrastructure that are in the hopper. So we do hope to see that more of that spend in future years.
Okay, great. Just acknowledging that there's a lot of savings we gain by doing this work, or offsetting what could be much worse if we don't do things. Is there, and because it looks like we're really struggling to meet our targets, like, is there going to be an ask in budget to staff up? Or I just see the value financially in doing this, so we may save money by hiring more people. Is that possible, or what do you think?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, at this point, we don't foresee an ask in the next budget cycle.
Okay, so we think we can do with the people, we can kind of catch up. All right. This is sort of outside your scope, but I'm wondering if you could comment it. I've read that emissions from cruise ships and flights are not counted anywhere. Do you know anything about that? Or
Kevin's going to call a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Colleen Goss on the Environment and Climate Change team. So the emissions from cruise ships and airlines would be considered part of Scope 3 emissions. Our current emissions inventory considers Scope 1 and Scope 2. We are considering including Scope 3 in the future, but the current emissions include that. So that means energy that's consumed within the municipality and emissions associated with energy consumed within the municipality but generated outside of the municipality.
Okay. I guess I'm just concerned that it's not being. Do you know if anyone's counting it and trying to reduce it? Because that's the way the context I read it. Just if we're not considering that, are we even close to our targets, kind of thing?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So with respect to our emission targets, it would not include those. So perhaps the federal government or others would be considering those within their targets, but we are not.
Just not sure. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. It's a big one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And now we're going to hear from Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. My question is also, again, related to CO2 emissions. I am wondering whether we are making any, first of all, whether we are tracking or accommodating for the CO2 emissions from wildfires within the municipality. I understand that Canada-wide, the CO2 emissions from wildfires in 2023 exceeds more than the total of all human-caused emissions for the country that year. And we are also on track for the same to be true in 2025. So my first question is are we accommodating for the CO2 emissions because of the wildfires that we have had within the municipality? And as a follow-up to that question, and I know that I have brought this up with other staff as well, whether there is an opportunity for us to talk about wildfires a little bit differently inside of Halifax, given the enormous environmental damage that wildfires have, for one, and two, because of the CO2 footprint that they create. Thank you.
Through Mr. Chair to the councillor, with respect to the second question, I say let's discuss that so that we can incorporate the feedback and talk about wildfires appropriately within Halifax, certainly, yeah. With respect to the emissions calculation, Colleen.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, the emissions associated with wildfires would be reflected in our inventory when we look at, we consider the impact of different land types on our emissions within the municipality.
Right.
So looking at a decrease in forested areas. So right now our forests account for a negative emissions in our community emissions inventory. So as we see that forested area decrease, we will have less of that mitigation within the municipality. But that's certainly something for us to look at a more granular level. Right now we're looking at it from fairly high up. So I'd be happy to do more reading into that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I see folks up for the second time around, so what I'll do is I'll have some questions, if it's okay, from the chair to ask those questions, and then we'll go to the second time around. Kevin, thank you very much to you and your team. This is really important that we are here today to get this update, but it's also preparing to do the same presentation at Regional Council is extremely important, especially as we're now moving into our budget season. So yeah, I will start with my favorite topic with you, Kevin, all the time is chargers. Can you give us somewhat of a timeline and I'm glad that Councillor Daigle Gammon mentioned about, her area not having chargers, and they're needed for sure. And it's probably one of the reasons why she's holding back in getting an electric charger. We do have a electric car. We do have an electric car in my household. And so can you give us just a quick update where we are, what's next, what chargers can we expect next, and where?
Certainly. So thanks for the question. So in the next, let's say, year and a half, the focus is that, in the next, say, 6 months or so, we're going to be commencing work at the Alderney Landing. So we intend to install a fast charger there for public use and some level 2s for overnight charging or for those that access the market on the weekends. That work was delayed because we do want to do a large fleet electrification project there as well in the fleet lot. So the tender for that work actually closes on Friday. and then we'll get that awarded, and we'll likely start that in early January. Let's pray for a decent winter. We're also looking at, as I mentioned to Councillor Daigle-Gammond, a place in Middle Musquodoboit. We're working in Sheet Harbor as well. So at the McPhee House, we're working with the province to do some easements to allow us to install the charger there. We're looking to do some level 2s at RBC Centre. Shuby Park is still on the list. There's some infrastructure upgrades that are needed.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I think it's really critically important, Alderney Landing, because it is a high-profile area, and to see that those fast chargers, they're quite visible, right? So I think that's excellent. And could you talk about the Scotiabank project again? I missed it. So is that project started, in the middle of it, completed? Can you explain that again, please?
Certainly, yeah. So that project is completed. And yeah, it's gone through the deep energy retrofit, or I guess not deep energy retrofit, but the energy retrofit. Sometimes with larger commercial buildings, depending on your definition of deep, what is operationally feasible, we need to consider that. But I think the two key aspects of that deep energy, or that energy retrofit project, is the heat recovery, which is fantastic. By we need to cool down the ice, which means we have to take heat out of the ice. And typically, historically, we just shoot it out to the atmosphere. But now this is a mechanism to use it for space heating. And then the thermal storage system, where we get to actually charge up the system using off-peak electricity, because I suspect they're on time of day is my guess, or the demand is lower at certain times. So we can, use the same amount of energy for that, but it's much cheaper, much more.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that. Your slide on the CEO Climate Action Charter, I have a suggestion or an ask. Can we somehow, in your presentation to Regional Council, get a quote from the Halifax Partnership from the CEO from the partnership, Wendy Luther, on the importance of this and the work that the partnership does? I think let's be crystal clear on that when you come to Council. My last question, then I'll turn it over. We'll go back a second time around. It's with regard to the naturalization program. I don't know if Emma wants to come forward, but I guess the question is, how are we measuring success for that? How do we know we're doing the right thing? I know the work that's being done in Councillor Austin's area and then in Penhorn Lake in my area, but how do we know that it's the right thing to do, that it's progressing, it's making a difference, and then are we looking at other areas to do the same kind of work?
Good afternoon. I'm Emma Waddy, Manager of Environment. So with the naturalization program, we're working with the naturalization coordinator in Parks and Recreation, and I believe there were, I want to say 40 sites that were proposed with the naturalization strategy, and the coordinator started 2 years ago next month, I believe. And so we were working with her to prioritize which sites to look at. We were looking at things like beach closures, the Lake Watchers data that our team collects, and other kind of environmental impacts of where we were seeing a lot of beach closures and kind of the overlap of our beaches and those sites. There are some kind of monitoring of the plants and the species that are that happen. I think we did one at Birch Cove. We did this spring to kind of make sure that which plants kind of overwintered well and which ones needed a bit more maintenance, kind of thing. And then we do beach during the beach season. We do water quality testing throughout the summer. So in July and August, we do E. coli testing on a weekly basis, which is a bit more frequent for recreational values. And at Birch Cove, there were much fewer beach closures this past year. Some of that might have been because of the lack of rainfall that we had this year. But there were, at Birch Cove in particular, which is the older site, we did have quite a few less beach closures.
So is that the measurement of success, that reduction of, and can we connect that directly to this work?
Yeah, I would say there is a connection in that case. And I will say too, for the Lake Watchers Monitoring Program report that will be coming up later this year, we will be kind of connecting the naturalization and beach monitoring and Lake Watchers all together as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Look, we'll go a second time around. Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for asking about the lake stuff. I'll just plug that I think it's been very successful over in Dartmouth, seeing that out, and I'm hoping that Big Alborough will be happening next year. I wanted to ask in terms of coming back around, I do have, it's kind of funny the way this is all landed, because we did have our whole discussion about my motion about Solar City two meetings back. But then I look at this report, and what I wonder is just whether or not, so we have the report, it identifies the items that are behind under threat. Some of them are things that there's not a whole lot we can really do about them. It's a problem that we're just facing. Some of them don't seem well structured at all as to why, not a whole lot's happened. Is there value towards some sort of motion, and this is something we could think about when this comes to regional, some sort of motion asking for a report that's not just okay, what's the report card? How do we fix the ones that are in orange and red? Or does that send you folks off on a giant, wild goose chase that is impossible to really answer? Or does it help you in terms of lighting a fire under other business units? No, you have to come to council and tell them how you're actually going to correct this and get yourself on track. Easy question.
Mr. Chair, through you to the councillor, thanks for the question. I think to your point, that probably would send the team off into a bit of a swirl going into budget and business planning season. But if we could, I'd like to take that offline and think about the best way to craft that. It's a great question. But if we could take that offline, we'll come up with a way to answer that question, be it in a future progress report, or possibly, since we are 5 years into Halifax, that it may be an opportunity to do a look back and a bigger look forward.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Perhaps we can chat more about it. When I just think there's almost two categories of items that we're in orange or red on. So it's like transit on electrification. Well, we're working on the Burnside Transit Garage. It's not for lack of trying that one's where it is. And we have limits as to what we can do about that. But then we have other things like the potential for scaling Solar City, home retrofit. Some of these other ones in there where it's no, I think there's things we could do to accelerate and make those perform better and come closer to our goals that we're maybe not doing right now, just for lack of priority, right? And so I'm trying to organize the two into thinking where could we intervene to do more?
No, that's good.
Right, John.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, through you to the councillor. Yeah, let us take that away. Certainly to your point on Burnside Transit Center, it's a major project, and there's only certain levers we have at the moment to make that progress. But certainly there's going to be some others there with some extra level of effort, perhaps. But I will take this as a time to flag that following approval of Halifax, we ran into COVID, hurricanes, forest fires, floods, homelessness, affordability. So there's no lack of competing interests. And having said that, this does need to remain high at the top of the awareness and effort. And I think the team's doing a great job at doing that and integrating with the business units. With some extra work on integrating in the business plans for each individual business unit, I think that'll be a great step forward to see some more progress.
If I can be blunt, my concern isn't just the HRM, the bureaucratic response. It's also what I see out of that is a challenge for us at council to have a very clear, not just let this kind of slip by, but to have that definitive moment. Do you want to pay what it will cost to do the thing, or do you not? And that's not a staff level thing. That's a political decision for the likes of all of us. And we should have that moment and be clear-eyed what we're deciding to do. Or not do.
Thank you, Councillor. And John, it's interesting. He listed all those items that had gotten in the way of some of our progress. All that was missing was locust, but that would fall into our category, right, Emma? We did locusts who showed up. That's right. Yeah. And the Japanese beetle, and the list is coming. Yeah, absolutely. Councillor Steele.
Thank you. And the other one that wasn't mentioned was drought, which, so I'll try my question again. The second question, it was more the regulatory barriers. You mentioned that there are regulatory barriers. This is building very much on Councillor Austin's question. What's preventing us from doing the things we should be doing? And we know some of it's money and priorities. We also know that some of it is regulatory barriers. So are these barriers here at HRM? Are they provincial barriers? Are they federal barriers? Can you just speak to the regulatory side? And what efforts have we undertaken to address those regulatory barriers? And where do we have some possible wins in the future? And I know that's a big question, but that's kind of where I am with the regulatory barriers. I want to understand what they are.
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So with respect to regulatory barriers, the one that I go to is the building code. One of the actions in Halifax is net zero new buildings by 2030. With respect to the building code, so we don't mandate the building code. The province mandates the building code, and we follow along with that. I'd say 2-3 years ago or so, we did some work to develop an analysis of the benefits to homeowners and developers on building to higher standards of the code. We did submit a letter to the province to encourage that they let the municipality mandate different tiers of that code. The province did adopt the code, however, it is one of the lower tiers, and we don't see at current a forecast for them to mandate the highest tier, which would be the closest to net zero by 2030. What we can, there's a whole array of things that we potentially could do. It just depends, I would say, on what it is we want to do with respect to encouraging development to be at a higher standard. I know in the past there was density bonusing, but it was much largely attributed to affordable housing, which was the priority, which is totally fair. So I believe potentially, look internally at our planning team on like what levers can we take? Is it speeding up permitting processes? I'm likely speaking out of turn because I do not know exactly what it might be. However, with respect to our internal operations, we do have a net zero administrative order because we do have complete control over our corporate buildings, and each new tender that goes out for our new builds, we require that it be built to net zero or net zero ready. And the industry is stepping up and they're able to deliver that. So we've been moving on quite a few buildings as of late. The Aquatics Center is one. Quanti's Grams Grove is another. There's a fair list. Okay. Yeah.
So how, I need to think carefully about how I phrase this question. I understand the building code issues, super important, and I saw it in the report. How big a barrier is that to us meeting our emission standards? The fact that the province decided to accept the lower standard, so to speak.
So with respect to the building code, any building that's built now is going to be around for a while, and it's going to need costly retrofits in the future to achieve the targets. So if we can, build a building now that uses as little energy as possible, it sets us up for, easier success in the future.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if I still have.
You don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. Sorry. No.
Yeah, Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to pop back to charging quickly. I've got the list on the website in front of me, and I looked at it lately because we had an email about a tourist that came into town, couldn't find anywhere to charge and left. So I got a little familiar with this. So you mentioned 29 chargers, and I see this list here. So are the 29 sprinkled within what's online right now, or are we missing some, and are more coming?
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, those 29 is sprinkled within. We list level 2 and level 3. Typically, for more urban areas, we're looking at a fast charger and then 4 level 2s. So it'll be 5 per site, and then more off the highways outside of the peninsula, we're looking at just a single fast charger. So not all chargers are created equal, but it's 29 total.
Okay, that's great. And yeah, so we don't have any in D7 right now. We're getting one in Point Pleasant Park, and that's cool. I'm definitely on board with the idea that we want industry to take over this, and we're just spurring that. So do you have any comments on how industry is jumping into this or not to take over?
So through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, the focus is providing the adequate charging infrastructure now to increase the adoption of electric vehicles so that there is a better business case for the private sector. Right now, there isn't a super great business case for deploying charging. We are working with HCI 3, the Halifax Innovation Investment and Impact Fund, to put together a package for the private sector in supporting them in deploying, like what questions they need to think about, what's involved with actually installing charging infrastructure. As we started this project in 2021, as most people would think, you just plug it in. But it's really not that simple. There's a lot of work with the utility that needs to be done with owners. There's spacing constraints, and it is, a sizable capital investment. And then once it is installed, there's operations and maintenance, which, we have to set fees that hopefully cover the cost, and, even setting the fees to work with the current fee structure that Nova Scotia Power provides. There's no specific fee structure for EV charging. So actually calculating what your fees may be, you actually straddle between 2 different rate codes, and depending on the utilization, it gets very complex. So we're hoping to, simplify that for the private sector and others.
Okay, so kind of putting together your lessons learned and offering them up to private. That
Indeed.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hartling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm going to throw this out as kind of an open question. Perhaps if anybody would like to comment. While I am very excited and encouraged by the work of your team and what Halifax represents, I also have very, very big concerns that it is not adequate, that we as a municipality are not well equipped to respond to the climate emergencies that we are currently having. So when we, thank you very much, John, for highlighting all the reasons why we didn't hit our Halifax targets: fires, floods, hurricanes, droughts added by Councillor Steele. These are all climate emergencies in and of themselves. They are not happening for no reason. And so I wonder very much whether Halifax is really a document that is representative of where we are in the moment, at this moment in time. I don't know whether anybody would like to have or would like to comment on that a little bit further. While again, I can't take away from the significance and the importance of what is represented in there today, I just wonder whether the environment itself is changing faster than any one single document can. And so I think I'll leave it there. If anybody else would like to chime in, I would love to hear it. But maybe from you, if you would like to comment on how we can better understand climate emergencies in this municipality. How can we better, as a municipality, speak to these long-standing important documents that represent our North Star when climate is changing faster than we can accommodate? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Natasha Winters, Manager of Climate Governance. Through you, Chair, to the Councillor, that is an excellent question. I think one that we grapple with every day as a department. And so I think I will say, to answer your question, our plan was built on what science tells us and told us in that time, and still continues to tell us, is what we need to do in order to effectively mitigate the impacts of climate change. And it was built with foresight. It was built with modeling that said, here's where we'll be at in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So I think as a team, we feel very confident in our plan. And in terms of the way that we've implemented, it is always forward thinking. So it is the assumption of this team that we will continue to have more hurricanes, more floods, more wildfires. So I think we feel as a municipality that our plan is and continues to be the best plan forward. Ways that we can ensure that this work stays on the table is very important. So John mentioned the work of my team is to really mainstream and embed climate action across our municipal operations so that every business unit knows their responsibility. We need to accelerate that, so that's definitely something we're working on. But as a council, as you look to competing priorities and things that are happening, we really look to your leadership to continue to have this on the table. We feel strong and confident in the resources that we have to do the work every single day, but we know that the support of this council and certainly our leadership makes all the difference. So I think in terms of answering your question, your continued support, your continued prioritization gives us our best chance of implementing this work and making sure that we safeguard our community.
Thank you, Councillor. That was a great question, and so I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'll finish up with mine. One suggestion I have to build on Councillor Hartling's comments, in your presentation to Regional Council, I would maybe have early in the opening slide a list with pictures of the fires, the floods, the drought, the hurricanes that have happened since we implemented Halifax. Just, since we implemented it, this is what's happened in our area. Could you speak to the transit electrification a little bit very quickly? We've ordered 60 buses. How many of those are actually operating again? I mean, you alluded to that. When will we see all 60 operating? And can you speak also to how we're charging those now? It's just the benefit of those maybe watching at home. The other question I have, and maybe a John question, is our electrifying our fleet. What is the plan? I just met one of the operators from our new sweeper truck stopped me as we're walking the dog and to say hi, and was eager to show me that truck, that it was not a cheap vehicle, but that was a diesel vehicle. So could you maybe just talk about the strategy of electrifying our fleet? I do have another suggestion. The tax bill just went out. It's being delayed because of the postal strike. But in that tax bill where it shows Halifax, I would highly recommend that we have that link to the new website right next to it, because we get questions now, because as soon as the bill goes out, we got lots of questions about the tax bill. But it should be clear to understand what this tax is. Click on this link, go to our website, and answer it there. So that's a suggestion I have. How do we compare around the world? How do we compare in Canada? How do we compare in North America? How do we compare around the world, the work that we're doing here in our municipality versus everywhere else? Could you just talk a little bit about you showed the picture of the compliance officers. I have a compliance officer that lives down the street, and he talks about his e-bike, and he's very enthusiastic. I think Councillor Hartling and I were chatting with him at the bike ride we had, and he was very happy to tell us about his e-bike. So could you talk about that a little bit? How do I ask this question? Respectfully, last budget, there was a threat to this, to the work that you do, and fortunately we didn't touch it from a cut, from a cut. But if there's any cut to the work that you're doing, what's the impact? I think we need to be crystal clear on that, and we need to understand what that can be. And I think those are my questions. So if everybody follow that, that'll be great.
Thanks for the questions. No, yeah, exactly. With respect to the first question and Halifax Transit, my understanding is there's about 30 odd buses that are in operation right now. It's great when I hop on the bus and I can hear people. Maybe that's not great, but it's much quieter because those buses run much quieter. Or walking up North Street.
And I will tell you, I've spoken to operators now that are driving those buses, and the 3 operators I spoke to, all 3 of them said they were very apprehensive, and now they love them.
We've heard from our friends in Halifax Transit that it's people get to work earlier so that they can drive one of those buses now. So it's fantastic, and that's what we need across the municipality. So it's not just the folks in ECC encouraging this to happen. We want the champions in the different business units so that their colleagues will also.
Maybe there's another slide for your presentation with an operator said, I didn't like the idea, but I love the idea now.
I can't get enough. Exactly. And then my understanding is about 1 bus per week or so will then further be deployed. So I don't believe by the end of this year that they will be all in operation. Oh, yeah, indeed. Yeah. Then there'll be a few on reserve for, as some come to charge. With respect to the charging, as mentioned in the presentation, even with the current grid, the emissions of an electric bus is still much less than the comparable diesel bus. It's due to the efficiency of those vehicles. EVs are 90% or so efficient, which is fantastic. The addition of solar to that roof reduces the emissions further, and then the power purchase agreement that I mentioned, which will get wind energy through new wind turbines, will bring that down even further. With respect to the fleet transition, so at current, we're focusing on our light duty fleet, which we've got about 560 odd sedans, vans, and small trucks. That's the initial focus. And as I mentioned in answering your question on Alderney and the charging infrastructure, there's a sizable fleet project that should commence in January at Alderney and at Cowie Hill. Tax bill noted. We will chat to our tax folks and see if we can get that incorporated. When it comes to decision making and budget, and whereas last year, we had a great budget debate, and I would say what I would highlight is the impact of not investing is that. The negative impact on residents. So with respect to affordability, right? When, we're investing in renewable energy, deep energy retrofits, that benefits our residents. That puts money back into their pocket. By investing in our buildings, we're reducing our operating costs. While fuel rates do continue to increase, if you look at what we might have been paying if we had not done these building retrofits, it would be a lot more than actually doing it. And then with respect to investing in resiliency, so building back better, we think that's super important because there's damage to a bridge or a dam or a road, and we just build it the exact same way we built it 10, 20 years ago. That's not smart investment. We want to make sure that we use new climate standards that we've learned to ensure that it can withstand now what we know will likely happen in the future, so that we're not doing emergency repairs, which costs a lot more money in the future.
And the other question was, how do we stand up with other municipalities, provinces, countries when they're here?
I encourage others to potentially share as well. At the time of Halifax being passed, it definitely is one of the most ambitious climate plans. It aligns with the science, so it is not watered down. It aligns with the science. With respect to some of the projects that I'm more intimately known about, or that I know more about, our Solar City program has always been something that I talk to municipalities across the program. How did you stand it up? How did you develop it? With respect to charging infrastructure, we're one of the first here in Atlantic Canada to have 175 kilowatt fast chargers. Nova Scotia Power has now installed some chargers as well. But typically, in a lot of the work, we're leading from the forefront, and which comes with delays as we're learning, and there's not really a playbook to follow. But in a lot of fronts, we are definitely leading.
So thank you very much for the presentation, Kevin and team. We look forward to this conversation even in more in depth when it comes to regional council. Committee, what's your wish? So the question has now been called for. All those in favor? And anyone opposed? That has been passed. Again, thank you all for the amazing work. Great stuff. All right, let's see. Where are we next? There are number 14 motions. There are none. There's nothing in camera. We do have one added item at 16.1 from Councillor Austin, Solar City Enhancement. Councillor Austin, you have the floor, sir.
Trying to find my own motion in my inbox here. Thanks, Kathy. Rescue there from Fall River. So I move that the Environment and Sustainability Standing Committee direct the Chief Administrative Officer to provide a staff report on ways to increase participation in HRM's Solar City program, including consideration for improving the interest rate and extending the payback period.
Second by Councillor Steele. Go ahead, Councillor, you have the floor.
I don't have a whole lot on this. This is literally just from the Solar City update that we had the other week. We talked about to me, the Solar City kind of fits into that same retrofit program. This is a program that it targets affordability. It's very effective. But the Halifax ambition for this program is basically this, and we've done about that, right? So something has to change. We really have to make this program more appealing to folks. It has to be an offer that is too good to refuse, that you're leaving free money on the table. And I think we can potentially do that as a municipality. I think this is one of the hardest part in Halifax are the items that involve driving change out there in the broader community, because we don't necessarily have regulatory control. It's not like we can retrofit our own buildings, we can do our own stuff. The hardest thing is driving change in the community, but this is one where I think we can really make a difference and we can drive that direct change. But it's going to take a larger commitment on our part, and staff report is the way to get to that, to have that discussion and decide whether we want to proceed with that or not. And so I'd urge you to take a look at this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I see no one on the board. What is your wish, committee? Oh no, I see Councillor White just snuck in under there. Councillor White, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Austin. That's great. My only concern is competition with the energy retrofits. Like, you want to do that first. You want to decrease what you're using before you do solar. So could the report touch on that, or would the report touch on where resources are best going?
Kevin or John, do we see that? Do we need a change, or is that just well heard?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, I believe because the Solar City program has the foundation, it's got the mechanisms to keep it separate. We totally understand that reducing energy consumption should be the first thing that we do, but there's a number of homes that solar is sort of the last thing that they need to do. So I think having the two programs separate would be the best path forward. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Steele?
Thank you. One other thought for inclusion in the staff report is just how this program is unique, and how, what the landscape is like, and that it is unique and doesn't duplicate what's out there from other organizations. That would be helpful for me. Thank you.
I'm seeing nodding, which I assume is agreement that that'll be included. And to close, Councillor Austin.
Thank you. Just inspired by Councillor White's point. I mean, I think absolutely, like, the first thing you should do is reduce your energy use. One of our challenges is one program is mature, fully kind of out there, and I think ready to scale, where the retrofit one is just kind of launching. So I think we can go with the solar one. I could be wrong on this, but I think most people with solar, with the current technology, they're supplementing their household electricity use. They're not eliminating it. So even if you went at it where you put panels on your house first, you're probably not eliminating your electric bill entirely for most people, and then you can still retrofit later and, you know, go after the other kind of chunk. And so I think that the two kind of dovetail, and coming at it in this, you know, from this direction, just where we are with the two programs, I think it's okay. But, you know, Kevin and company can tell me I'm wrong or right on that.
I think that was an official thumbs up and confirmation. I see no other names on the board. What is your wish, committee? The question is in call for. All those in favor of the motion? Anyone opposed? That motion is to carry. Thank you, Councillor Austin. That brings us to 17 notices of motions. Anyone have any committee? Seeing none. And the date of the next meeting is November 6th. Councillor Dale Gammon, just to let you know that I will not be here for that. So if we take the chair, that'll be appreciated. So we have someone call for adjournment. So moved by Councillor Steele. Thank you very much for everybody for your time today.